Joining me now is Kira Rudik. She is a member of the Ukrainian Parliament. She joins us from the Ukrainian capital of Kyiv. Ms. Rudik, first of all, thank you very much for joining us again.
Thank you very much for having me.
You went out to see the sites of some of these massacres, including in Bucha and other areas. What did you see? I mean, you saw it in person. What did you see?
I saw many bodies, more than I have ever seen in my life. And I have seen that many of them, they had their hands tied behind their backs. Some people were killed by families, and some died alone. We have seen people whose bodies were ran over by tanks multiple times, and bodies of women who were tried to be burned to cover what happened to them beforehand. We have also seen bodies of people who were tortured before being killed, with the bullets in their knees or with the bullets in their heads multiple times. I have spoken to the people who survived. I have spoken to women who were raped by Russian soldiers, with their children having to witness it. I have spoken to families whose relatives were killed, burned alive in the houses where the Russian rockets hit. The worst thing that I heard was a story about the two boys who watched the movie about the pirates, and they learned that if you're holding a white flag, it means that you are not going to fight. And so when their father was taking them away on the car, they had white flags on both sides of the car, and they were holding them. The car was shot, and everybody was dead there. Even the boys who thought that the white flag means something.
Your president, President Zelensky, has warned that it's not just Bucha. I mean, the Western world is focused on Bucha because we've seen some images there. We've been told that this is many communities on the outskirts of Kyiv. You can corroborate that?
Right. So it's not only Bucha, it's also Irpin, it's Yasnogorodka, it's Gostomel. There are many others. And the issue is that there are more on the eastern parts of Ukraine that are still being occupied, and we don't know of the crimes that happened there, but we can predict what's going to happen there, what we will see when we liberate them.
What do you make of when Western media, we have to say these are alleged atrocities, these are, the Russians are accused of doing these things, and then the Russians themselves say this is all made up, this is all false, this is fake news, this is all manufactured?
Look, this is why on the first day when Bucha was liberated, we took all possible and impossible journalists from the most respectable media, world-renowned media, to go with us and to see it by themselves, to film it, to share the information, so they would see it by their own eyes, they would know what happened there. Because we have been at war with Russia for 8 years, we know how Russia acts, we know all the tips and tricks on their books. War for 8 years, they say it was not them. War crimes committed all over Ukraine, not them. Attacking nuclear plants, also not them. So we know that this is how they act, and that's why we are not surprised.
Okay, I want to ask you something. Before we started this interview, I mentioned that 5 of your colleagues were here in Ottawa, 5 fellow MPs were here in Ottawa. They were pressing the Canadian government for more military aid. They were specifically asking for, because you're in the midst of this war, they were asking for heavy armaments, for tanks, for armored personnel carriers, for howitzers, shells. Are you getting any of that in Ukraine? Are you, as a parliamentarian, are you being told about getting the arms that you need to wage this war?
No. On the day 40 of the war, we are asking for the same things that we were asking on the day 1. For heavy weaponry, for anti-air force protection, for the S-300s, for the fighter jets, the things that we need not to only stand up, but to actually fight Russia back. And this is what is so painful here, because it's still that the world is watching and is giving us many promises, a lot of condemnation to Russia, and a lot of support to our refugees, a lot of humanitarian aid. And we are grateful for that, but it will not allow us to win the war and stop what the same crimes that are happening in Bucha right now. Every single day, when the world is hesitating and thinking, okay, maybe it will magically go away, my people are dying, my women are being raped, my children are being dead by hunger. So, you know, this is why the Bucha case is so important. This tragedy, this massacre is so important, because it makes every single world leader to make a choice. Either he or she closes her eyes at it and saying, okay, we don't know what this is. Mm-hmm. And then they are responsible for that as well. Or they start stepping up and acting.
Mm-hmm. I want to ask, I mean, we know that there are going to be some more announcements out of NATO. The NATO countries are going to be announcing some further military aid in the next few days, but also sanctions. I know you're president, and you as parliamentarians are showing more and more frustration in the fact that the European nations are still very much dependent on those Russian imports of oil and gas. They're arguing amongst themselves about whether they can bring in sanctions on Russian coal. What's your message in terms of sanctions? We heard your message in terms of arms, but in terms of sanctions?
Every single dollar that is going to Russia right now is a support of the horrible crimes that you have seen in Bucha. We have been telling the world that Putin is a tyrant and preparing for a war for 8 years. And everybody thought that this is something that could go away, and it did not. So he was able to accumulate money to afford the war. So right now, every day of hesitation of not putting sanctions of Russian gas and oil, every single day, every single country that is paying for Russian gas and oil and coal, of course, and other products, is supporting and feeding the tyrant and feeding the aggressor who came to our country and is killing us. So how does this look? Paying Russia on one hand and sending humanitarian aid to Ukraine with the other hand. Like what is the world that we are living in that allows countries to do that?
Okay, last question in just a few seconds. We're being told that Russia is regrouping, rearming, remanning, re-equipping, and regrouping. Is that the sense that you get there?
Yes, that's what they're doing. They're getting ready for another attack. And my question is, and what is NATO doing? Writing an angry email?
Okay, we will watch with great interest. The NATO ministers are meeting in the next 2 days. I want to thank you very much. I want to thank you for speaking with us. I want to wish you all the best, and I want to wish you safety and the best to all yours and your loved ones.
Thank you, and glory to Ukraine.